Story 1. No ambition. Lack of foresight. No goals. I spent so much time stressing out about my future that I never actually lived in the present. Story 2. I wasted a large part of my early 20s being underconfident and wallowing in self-pity. That kind of energy only attracts mediocrity and missed opportunities that you are sure to regret. Glad I fixed that nonsense later on in life. Story 3. The same way as my 30s, by having no actionable goals or interests, or having anything but fantasies. Although I feel it might be depression talking, I don't really know because there is no will for anything either. Just going with the flow, living on the bare minimums, waiting for a big thing to happen to push me further in either direction, salvation or total oblivion. Story 4. The biggest issue was simply spending too much time drinking alcohol and recovering from it when I could have been engaging in more interesting or productive activities. Story 5. I was absolutely convinced that my band was going to be famous and I would be a millionaire. All I did was play music, drink beer, and smoke cigarettes. Then suddenly I was 30, and I had no money or qualifications. I mean, I had fun, but Jesus Christ, it set me way back in terms of career or buying a house. Story 6. I was working 3 jobs at the same time and sometimes played games during the weekend. The result? I am still single until almost my late 20s, and the depression had built up. Laughing out loud. Story 7. People talk about wanting too much and burning out. It's the opposite for me. I never knew what I wanted. Story 8. I'm a 22-year-old male and I usually use Reddit all day to waste my 20s. But every night, I assure myself I'll stop wasting my life. Then I sleep, wake up, and the same day restarts. Story 9. Depression, alcohol, complacency. I got into a place where I was comfortable just falling into a non-productive routine, doing just enough to get through each day. I stopped trying for my goals. I stopped trying to better myself. I just found myself content to waste away in my apartment, hoping something would change without much push from me. That changed recently, and I've got a lot more drive now. I guess I thought if I just moved out and changed towns instead of resolving my problems, then that would be a fresh start and I could buy liquor now, but it just became a cycle of the same. It sucks that I'm only just now on the other end of it, but it's kind of thrilling too. Edit. Don't know if it'll help anyone, but what helped me was out of my hands. It took an emergency for me, but I think I had the most change during then because I had to open up to my family and take time away from work to contend with these talks. So, if someone's going through it, I think having to talk about everything, whether I wanted to or not, ended up helping the most and put things into a better perspective. I stopped drinking too, of course. Don't know what kind of advice to give there since I was taking medicine to help, but it's been nothing but positives health-wise. If nothing else, consider drinking less. I don't really have friends I can call on for support or anything, but I don't know what I would have done without my parents and girlfriend. I'm sure people with even less of a support system than that would really be going through it. Story 10. Weed. When you're high, you're okay with being bored. When you're bored, you should be learning a new skill, doing a hobby, meeting friends, or trying to meet a mate. When you're high, you do none of those things. Story 11. I got married too young at 21 and gave up a rapidly rising music career for the girl, all because she couldn't handle me getting any kind of attention. Life went on from there for 16 years and we separated. All that time was wasted, more or less. The moral of the story is to make sure your potential spouse is willing to support your goals and ambitions, within reason, as much as you are willing to love and support theirs. Things can't be one-sided, no matter how hard you try to carry the weight alone. Eventually, it sucks the life out of you, and you're left with little to no self-confidence, feeling like you don't deserve to be happy or to be loved by anyone. I will say, after nearly 2 years since we separated and now divorced, my outlook on things has changed a lot, and I've come around, but not nearly close to feeling whole again. But this time around, I'm most definitely going to be picky and take my time, even if that means I never remarry or end up staying a bachelor for the rest of my life. I'm 36 years old, and I refuse to settle for someone unwilling or incapable of loving me back with the same energy, sincerity, and passion as I have for them. Good luck to you. Story 12. I spent that whole decade working in kitchens. Complete waste of time. I missed so many holidays, so many weekends, so many special occasions and parties. I was working when people wanted to relax and enjoy their time. And what was it for? Poverty and exhaustion. I got a new job at a metal shop my brother was working at. Immediately, I was working Monday to Friday during the day for more money than I'd ever made. With no experience, with no skills, I got 3 raises in my first year. It made me realize I'd been wasting my time in a trap. Don't work in food, even if you love it, perhaps especially if you love it. The whole industry is broken and it'll break you to stay afloat. Forget them. Cook for people you love. That's what I get to do now. Story 13. My 20s were a wild roller coaster of should I? And no, I'll just stay in pajamas. Adulting feels more like a haunted house at this point. Story 14. I'm 23. I wasted my teens being friends with someone who made me feel like I should be grateful she's my friend and that no one will like me but her, and so on. It was 7 years of this garbage, and I actually believed her. I stopped talking to her 2 years ago after I started to have new friends and she got so jealous. It was too toxic for me. Anyway, I have good friends now. Story 15. Working my hardest as a hospital lab technician had its good sides, including a social club with a cheap bar and plenty of very nice female hospital staff to have fun with. Story 16. Listening to my parents, not participating in international educational programs, and not making international friends. Story 17. Smoking weed. That can be harmful, not to everyone. But you will slowly start to lose everyone and everything that's passionate in your life. Also, it's very expensive here in Australia. Story 18. My mom called me a disappointment, and I was in an abusive relationship. Additionally, I worked a dead-end retail job while being depressed through my 20s. When I actually applied myself, I now work at an accounting firm. So yeah, it was a complete waste of my 20s. Story 19. Being in a relationship with a man who settled for me, I thought he was the one, and it turns out he thought I was pretty and couldn't stand my personality but liked my looks, so there's that. Story 20. I wasted my teens by living in a poor country, in a poor school with no friends. So, I think I will waste my 20s in a poor country, in poor workplaces with no friends. Story 21. Video games. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on video games and thousands upon thousands of hours playing them. I recently quit playing games, and now I have thousands of dollars worth of games just collecting dust. Story 22. Engaging in drug use and attending rave parties was indeed the time of my life, but it took until my 40s to get my financial situation in order because of it. Go ahead and experience it, but don't let it consume your entire existence. Story 23. COVID. I often wonder what life would have been if there wasn't a lockdown when I turned 26. I was just feeling confident in my career, finances, and friendships when everything paused. It feels like I missed out on my late 20s growth. Story 24. Just remember, kids, if you did or are wasting your 20s, you're doing things right. Things get a lot less fun, but a lot more interesting in your 30s. Story 25. Weed addiction. My whole life revolved around smoking, so the last 6 years of the addiction I didn't do anything but work and go straight home to smoke. I quit for the last time at 29, and life has never been better now that I'm 34. Story 26. Joining a religious cult and allowing that cult to influence all my decisions, from career and marriage to where I'd live and my relationships, etc., was a significant part of my life. I left in my late 30s and am now living life on my own terms. Story 27. I had a weed addiction and was in a toxic relationship for all of my 20s, so I had zero self-confidence and pretty much avoided socializing, preferred to stay at home smoking. After quitting weed, I made the choice to leave the relationship and become a single parent in my early 30s, and honestly, I'm a different person. Life is 100% better now. Story 28. Got out of university. People I knew, friends, classmates, coworkers, teachers, told me I was not good at the thing I went to university for despite passing and graduating, art and animation. I got really depressed because no matter how hard I tried, I was seen as a failure, and people kept telling me I wasn't good enough. Worked to pay off my student loans, and then started saving up to go back to school once more and learn how to get better by taking a more specialized course at a well-known college. Go to college, second time around, graduate with honors, Still told I'm not good. My entire 20s was wasted going to school and working to pay off school, only to be told I'm not good enough. I had to move back home when COVID-19 hit because I ran out of money and rent was getting crazy expensive, and I've been stuck here since, slowly losing my mind. Do work from home though, so trying to save. For what I do not know anymore. Never follow your dreams, kids, unless you're already good at it. Story 29. Depression, social anxiety, laziness. Sometimes I imagine if I, in my 30s, still haven't done anything in my life, that's really a wasted life I was. Story 30. Make sure you're on a career path by the age of 30 for sure, and start investing in a company 401k if possible. I'm 38 and terrified of retirement because it never crossed my mind that Social Security isn't going to be enough to get comfortable. Exercise like 30 minutes of walking a day in total. Do some stretches or strength training. Turning 30 hits hard. My knees just hurt from working an office job. I get super winded at a 20-minute walk pace if I try to talk. I'm getting it together now, but I waited too long. Story 31. Followed my dreams instead of what makes money, never guessing artificial intelligence would kill them in only a few years. Story 32. Agoraphobia. Literally sat around, being afraid of everything, watching my loved ones, life, and the world pass by without me as if I didn't matter at all. Story 33. I wasted my 20s by not knowing myself well enough, by not finding my people, and by not having any boundaries. Story 34. Caring too much about opinions of friends who are no longer in my life. Wasting away youth with lazy habits and lack of discipline. Placing too much value on short-term pleasures rather than long-term gains. Story 35. Video games, gambling, cryptocurrency, and sharing humorous posts on Reddit currently, along with doom scrolling just to keep my mind numb. My ADHD suggests I do it, so don't blame me. Now, as I accumulate like 5 diseases, I must spend the end of my 20s visiting hospitals. What a life, bro. But you know, you only live once. Story 36. Working dead-end jobs I hated and had no chance of growing. Only when I was 27 did I find a job in which I could grow and be happy. Story 37. As a result of being closeted and then coming out at 22, too much alcohol, credit card debt, and being upset at the adopted family who disowned me, I am eternally grateful for good friends and countless mental health practitioners. Story 38. I obtained a degree that was significantly challenging for me, but I felt like I had invested too many years to give up. I experienced a severe crush on someone, and it negatively affected my health. I spent time on dating apps and had unpleasant experiences with various men. Now I am doing well. I learned many important lessons that I might not have learned otherwise. I am thriving in love, financially, physically, and mentally. Nothing can hurt me anymore, and I possess an outstanding degree. The 20s truly are a tumultuous time that one can utilize as chaos from which to grow. I often say, the more manure, the better the rose. Story 39. On a man who wasn't right for me, and as an extension, on a degree or career that wasn't right for me because this man was a screw-up, and I knew if I stayed with him, I'd have to be in a well-paying career. Story 40. I didn't question anything or really think about what I wanted. I cruised through my 20s just doing whatever my partner wanted. That wasn't a bad thing. A lot of the cool stuff I did was because she wanted to, and it was amazing. The problem was that I spent zero time on introspection and getting to know who I actually was. As a result, I only started that process just before I turned 30, and as a result, my entire life has been turned upside down in the last 3 months. If that had happened when I was 23, the consequences would have been a lot easier to deal with than at 33. Story 41. All I did was toil away at school and used video games to cope. There's not a girl in sight with that lifestyle. Story 42. Playing EVE Online full-time for over 4 years. There are worse games that people have wasted years in, to be honest. Story 43. By not being consistent with taking care of my body and sticking to any job I had, I always quit my jobs after 6 months to a year because I get bored, and I can never seem to stick to a workout regime even though I really enjoy feeling strong. I don't know, man. I feel like I should have had more sex as well, but at least I still have my 30s to correct this behavior since I'm 28 now. Story 44. Depression and anxiety turned out to be induced by attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. If only I had gotten checked up during my bachelor's. Story 45. I'm not going to the gym consistently. I've been paying the price for it in my early 30s. Weight seems to just stick harder on the body now. Story 46. I wasted a significant amount of money but had an amazing romantic life. However, it did leave me with debt and a romance addiction in my 30s. Story 47. 3 words. No self-confidence. I let so many opportunities pass me by, both socially and mentally. I didn't really get to explore myself. Story 48. I didn't from a financial, education, and career perspective, but I did from a relationship perspective, as I stayed with the wrong person for many years, although I knew we had no future. Don't make that mistake. Leave if you feel it is not worth it or no future is possible. These years won't come back, so be careful and don't waste them.